All right, here's our new unit, Unit 3. It's fractions, decimals, and percents. All right, so you're familiar with fractions. You've got a top number, a line, and then a bottom number. The top number is called the numerator. The bottom is called the denominator. Fractions are probably best described using a picture. So imagine this is a chocolate bar. It's got 24 pieces in total, so that would be the 24. And then let's say we're talking about that piece, and that piece. There's 1, 2, 3. We're talking about 3 of those 24 pieces. Okay, so there's our fraction. We also know that there's something called equivalent fractions. And an equivalent fraction would have the same value. So if I take that first fraction, 3 over 24, I could actually do something to this to make a fraction that is actually worth the same amount, same parts of a whole. It's just going to be different numbers. And the way to find equivalent fractions, so a fraction that's going to be equal, whatever you do to your numerator, your top number, if you do it to your bottom number, your denominator, you will be able to, if you multiply or divide, you'll be able to figure it out. So if we take this 3 and we divide it by 3, we would end up getting 1. If we take this 24 and we divide it by 3, we would end up getting 8. So in order to do this, sometimes we need to focus on what our prime factors are, so numbers that both could divide by, and since we both know that these can both divide by 3, we can do that. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, 24 divided by 3 is 8. So then we can say that 3 over 24 is equal to 1 over 8. And if we draw a picture, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces in total. That's why this is here. And if we talk about this whole area, notice these two pictures. The only difference, here's 3 pieces of 24 piece, 1 piece of 8 pieces, but it's the same size of chocolate bar, let's say. But it's 1 piece, bigger piece, is the same amount as those 3 pieces. It's just a different denominator. It's a different amount of pieces that bar is broken up into. Fractions, in essence, are actually division, and I'm going to do a little history lesson here. 3 divided, we've seen this division sign back in the day, 3 divided by 24 is actually equal to 3 divided by 24. Doesn't this look like a fraction? But it's also equal to the division. This symbol here, the reason they got this is it looks like a fraction. If this 3 goes where that dot is, this 24 goes where that dot is, it looks exactly like this 3 over 24. That's actually where they got that symbol that means division. It's because division and fractions are essentially the same thing. So that takes us to our first part of the unit, fractions to decimals. So turning fractions into decimals or decimals back to fractions. If we have a fraction, let's go with 1 over 10. We know that means, it means 1 divided by 10, right? So if we go into our calculator and we divide 1 and press the divided sign and then 10, we will find out that it is 0.1. Now if you think about it, the denominator is tenths, right? There's 10 of them, and when a 10 is on the denominator rather than the top, we call it a tenth. When we have our place values, do we remember place values? Should I draw that out? If we've got our number, we have 243.684. If we look in our spot that's just right of our decimal point, that's called the tenths place. I think some of you caught my mistake. I forgot to write my tens place. I skipped that accidentally. So we have 1,243.684. So from our decimal, this is how we've seen numbers before. Everything that we write down usually is actually left of the decimals. You've got your units or ones place. There's a 3 in that place. You've got the 4 in the tens, a 2 in the hundreds, 1 in the thousands. But you can actually have portions of numbers that are actually smaller than 1. So from the right, notice you got your units or your ones in the middle right beside the decimals, but then you've got your tens. Well, these are the tenths. Next is the hundreds. You've got the hundredths, THS, and then thousands, thousandths. Now think about it. When you are dividing by 10, so 1 divided by 10, 10, whatever your first digit here is, your units digit, that's actually going to go in your tenths place. This is 1/10, which means you have a 1 in which spot? Your tenths spot. So let's do another fraction here. We've got 1 over 100. 100, think hundredths. We're going to put a 1 in what spot? If we go 1 divided by 100, we're going to have a 1 in which spot? Not in our units, not in our tenths. We're going to have it in our hundredths. And then you just fill in the rest with zeros or whatever is left. So let's think about this. What about if it's 27 over 100? 27 over 100. That would be the same thing as 27 divided by 100. Now you're going to take this number, and whichever is your units place here is going to go in this spot, the hundredths spot. So that would equal to 0 point, and your 7 is going to go in your hundredths spot. Hundredths is your second digit. Tenths is your first one there. So you just fill in the number 27. Okay? So let's give this one a try. It's 207 over 1,000. First step, we're going to think 207 divided by 1,000. You don't have to draw this step. This is just something to make sure you understand this is division. So if your 1,000 is your place value, count them out, your units, your your units, your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths. Whatever is your rightmost digit in this, you're going to toss in your thousandths. And then you're just going to fill in the other digits, 702, 702. And we put the 0 here. If we just went decimal 207, it's very easy to miss this decimal. We always put a 0 there if it's a number in the numerator that's smaller than the denominator. Here's another example. What if your numerator is a bigger number than your denominator? I've got 4,216, 4,000 over 1,000. That's a bigger number than this number. Well, we still do it the same way. 4216 divided by 1,000. But this time, we still need to put the 6 in our thousandth spot. So you got your units, decimal, tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Thousandths is still going to have that first digit there, 6. And then you just fill them in, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. The order of the digits should be still the same left to right as it was in the fraction. Sorry, I bumped the camera. So 4,216 over 1,000, so 4,216 thousandths would equal 4.216 of those units. So you could imagine this, you've got some chocolate bars that are broken up into 1,000 pieces, and you have 4 of them, and then also 216 of those small pieces. That would be this fraction. So this is when you have multiple of those chocolate bars or those pizzas or whatever you're breaking it up into. Here's another example. 21,643 tenths would be the same as 21,643 divided by 10, which equals, if we write down our digits, 21643, where could we put the decimal so that this last digit here is in our tenth spot? Well, our tenths is the one that's just right of the decimal, so we need to put the decimal so that would be just right. So that's what it would be. So if you had chocolate bars that are made out of 10 pieces, and you had that many pieces, it would actually be this many chocolate bars. Here's a little chart to summarize this multiples of 10 in your denominator. 1/10, you'd put a 1 in the 10th spot. 2 tenths, 2 would be in the 10th spot. 3 tenths would be 3 in the 10th spot. 9 tenths, 9 in the 10th spot. 1/100th you'd have a 1 in your hundredths spot. Tenths, hundredths. 27 hundredths, well, you put that rightmost digit in your hundredth spot and then fill in the 2 beside and add a 0 at the start. 27 thousandths, it's 1,000 now. Find that 7 and put it in your thousand spots. You've got your ones, your units, your tenths, your hundredths, and your thousandths. So find that thousand spot and put that 7 in there. So that's what happens when you have your tens and your multiples of 10, like 10 times 10 is 100, 100 times 10 is 1,000, and so forth. This pattern would continue even to 10 thousandths or 100 thousandths, millionths, all the way.